Okay, casual conversational cartoon curriculum. Very concise and relatively correct as soon as possible, as simple as possible. A&P, Chapter 5, third installment right here. Finishing off this general information about the epithelial tissue. We'll go back to the idea of where does it all come from? It comes from stem cells. Now, there's two general groups of stem cells, the embryonic stem cells and the adult stem cells. Obviously, during your developmental phase, before you were born, those were the embryonic stem cells. Embryonic stem cells come in two general categories there, the totipotent and the pluripotent. We're going to focus our attention on the totipotent. It means it's totally potent, it's totally capable, and this represents something such as the zygote. This thing is totally capable of becoming any cell in the entire body. All the cells in your body originated from this one cell. So it had everything to be able to make all those cells. Now, when you go through gastrulation and the formation of a gastrula, again, the cells are identified more often as pluripotent. They're in one category of tissue, such as epithelial, connective, muscular, or nervous. For the adult stem cells, after the child has been born, we can talk about multipotent stem cells. And this is represented easy by something called a mesenchyme cell. A mesenchyme cell can be the stem cell for any type of connective tissue cell. And those connective tissue cells include fibroblast and chondroblast and osteoblast and even hemocytoblast for connective tissues, loose or dense connective tissues, for bone, for cartilage, and for blood. So they're called multipotent. They're inside the category of connective tissue, but again, any one of those connective tissue cells can come from this type of stem cell. And then finally, unipotent. In unipotent, it really just says this cell can make a copy of itself. It can't make anything but a copy of itself. And most of the cells inside your body that can reproduce are unipotent. They just make copies, exact copies of themselves. Here's just a quick review for the sake of lab of the way of classifying glands according to their shape. They could just be a single pouch-like structure, in which case they're called simple, or they could have many branches, in which case they're compound. Now, if this pouch is tubular, then it's simple tubular or compound tubular. If the pouches are more rounded and balloon-like, it could be simple acinar or compound acinar. So again, just a convenient way of describing the anatomy of these glands. In describing the general chemistry of the things, here's another thing. We can talk about Merocrine, Apocrine, and Holocrine. Now, originally, we talked about exocrine and endocrine. That had to do with whether there was a duct or not. Down here, we're talking about the secretions of the particular gland, and these apply to the exocrine gland most obviously. So, if something is merocrine, an exocrine gland that's merocrine, it produces a very liquid-like secretion, very watery secretion. And this would be represented by things such as tears and sweat and saliva and gastric juices. If, however, it's an apocrine gland, it produces secretion that's just a little bit thicker. It's thicker because it has actually chunks of the gland cells are part of the fluid, part of the secretion. So it's liquid and chunks of cells. And the mammary gland is a good example of that. And then finally, there's holocrine, total commitment right here, because holo refers to complete. And in holocrine secretions, cells are actually lost into the secretion. Not just liquid and chunks, but entire cells are part of the secretion. And sebum, or oil, is the best example of that.